I'm Ella Frears. I'm a poet, writer and visual artist based in London. My work quite often explores the female voice and ideas of voicelessness. I look at places or respond to places through the female body and look at why quite often female writers are forced into the body. So every day I walk from Beaulieu to Buckler's Hard along the river, which is a beautiful walk, and I've been sort of taking my time, recording sounds, taking photos, making notes, and that's a sort of really nice sort of physical journey that helps sort of create work. Nature and the landscape don't normally feature in my work, but what I found looking out at the river is something that people don't talk about often with residencies, is that you're away from your normal life, you're away from your home, and I found that staying here for extended periods of time, I've been missing my partner, and so these feelings of sort of heartache have been sort of superimposed over this landscape, and the work that I've been making about the river have become sort of love poems. But you have to be sort of missing human contact, and then suddenly all of the good stuff comes out. Originally, when I got the residency, I thought I was going to be doing a lot of public engagement. Actually, having the winter slot, it's been very, very quiet. But the people that I have met have all been lovely. It's been less visitors and more the guys that work in the marina, the staff from the cafe, the people that run Buckler's Hard. And we've had amazing conversations about the history of the place, about their lives. One of the wonderful things about being in residence somewhere that you've never been before, you learn about a totally new subject. There aren't many jobs where you can intersect with areas of a community that you would never meet. You know, my not being involved in boats means that I wouldn't have met these guys unless I was doing this job, and that's a really beautiful thing. One of the first things that struck me when I arrived here was the museum, and they have this sort of diorama from hundreds of years ago with these models of people, and there's a soundtrack that plays of a sort of mumbly pub scene, which is great, and it's actually really atmospheric. Quite often these small museums in places can be quite odd. So my idea was to make a sort of poetry diorama, a diorama of the residency experience. So over time I've been recording the sound of the experience that I've had, and I've made a sort of double, a manner twin, which I can place as myself and have her read the poems in my place. I think having done residencies before, I'm really interested in the actual process of the residency, and so this particular one, this Observatory residency, has been shifting my work into thinking about the real and the fictional and how we represent our experiences and our responses of a place. And I think that the idea with having this double is you won't know which parts are the sounds of me really writing, which parts are manufactured. Equally, there might be conversations that I've had in real time that were reenacted for the purposes of a sound piece. And I really like this blurring of boundaries between the sort of fictional and truth.
I'm Mary Montague-Scott. I'm a director at Buckler's Hard, in charge of the Maritime Museum and the visitor attraction here. Well, it's been fantastic. What a great addition it's been for the visitors, for the community here at Buckler's Hard to have artists working here. It's been a superb addition to the winter months and created great interest for us, for the village, and for the artists, I hope. The observatory buildings themselves are innovative and interesting, and that appealed to me in itself. I think they sit in the setting here very well. The buildings blend in naturally to our beautiful environment at Buckler's Hard. I think for some people they didn't know they were here when they came and have had a very interesting experience as a result, because it's an unexpected thing, and then to actually be able to interact with the artists, to be able to sit in the second structure, to enjoy the view from there, I think it's been fantastic for us and a wonderful addition for the winter months.
My name is Helen Snell, and I work principally with laser cutting and digital media. And my work ranges from very small scale pieces in paper to big installations working in metal and fabric, so across a whole range of materials and scales. Being in Buckler's Hard has been a wonderful opportunity to work much more in an outside environment. I suppose most of the time when I'm working in my studio, it is quite a kind of introspective, enclosed way of working. So here, The landscape is much more important, and I felt very drawn to the natural environment, also the layers of history that there are on the site. So the structures of the observatory are really intriguing, and the way that you are able to track the light and the shadow, given that they're very short days. And because a lot of the shapes and templates I'm working with have layers of transparency and opacity, placing them in the space and looking at how they work together has been fantastic. It's been a little kind of laboratory. So, and also a kind of display case for me. I mean, I'm thinking about what I'm putting in there rather like a mini installation. So it's still very much a work in progress, but it's a really interesting space to work with. I think probably I usually work with the narrative first, so the research or that sort of sense of intuition and sketchbooks and a lot of drawing. Whereas here it feels that I've allowed the landscape to determine much more what I've done. So perhaps that's freer. It's maybe sometimes perhaps less literal or even sort of less earnest. I think we get wrapped up in this system where we're so used to committing an idea to paper very quickly. And it's the whole way we've been trained and the whole way we approach galleries and pitching for commissions. But just to go and just be much more playful and not worry so much about a very considered outcome has been fabulous. And it's about sort of learning to trust yourself a bit more. Just get out of that very linear kind of sketchbook ideas, concepts way of working and just allow much more to happen more freely. My feeling is, as I come to the end of my residency, that I will come back. So I've got ideas about things that I've started that I want to complete, but in the fullness of time. And it is also that idea of, you know, often we have projects that have a beginning and an end, but something that maybe is sort of slightly more long-term and with a sense of continuity. So, you know, I'm thinking if I come back here in the summer, the landscape's going to be totally different, the light's going to be different. I will have, on the back of what I've made in January and February, have made all sorts of other things, and embedding in those things maybe more specific narratives. So coming back and having this sort of overarching trajectory of what I've been doing. And then I don't know. It's quite nice to not know and see it as a continuum rather than, you know, that's a full stop and then I'm going to start something completely different at the end of it. So I like to think that maybe it'll carry on somehow.
I'm Barbara Choch. I'm the instructor here for the International Boat Building Training College. They're very different to the historic village here, you know, but they're very organic as well, because of course they're all made out of wood and they've got that kind of burnt surface texture. So it's really, they're very different, but they're quite in keeping in a lot of ways with sort of buildings like this, actually. It's you know, it's nice to have something that's a bit different as well, because it kind of, you know, it sort of emphasises what we've got here in a way, you know, by its difference. It has been great fun having the artists around, because, you know, it's sort of, you see the place through their eyes as well, because, you know, when they come over and chat to us about what they've been up to, because a lot of them have been out on the river and gone just for walks around the place, you know, and it's really nice to see their interpretation and their impression of the place as well.
My name is Christine Mackey. I'm a visual artist. I'm normally based in Leitrim, in Ireland, at the Leitrim Sculpture Centre. And I've been here at the Observatory studio for the last 6 weeks. My work tends to be more research-based. It's not dedicated to any one particular medium, although I do have some preferences, such as drawing or combining drawing with installation work. I think the location has been particularly challenging. And the reason why I think it's particularly challenging is because you feel a bit like a museum exhibit. And I'm quite a private individual, so it's been interesting, for want of a better word, in terms of watching how people react to the studios and then to the artists themselves. So for me, the materials are less important than the content. What's important to me is the content. I actually didn't have any expectations. I had absolutely none. I had no idea about the location. I'd done a little bit of research, but I know from experience that to come in with a fixed idea of what a place could be is approaching the residency in the wrong way and the space in the wrong way. I prefer to keep things open. I like to work in a very site-specific way. I like the location to influence the work. I think it's important to get out of your comfort zone. I think it's important to have space and time to think and work on new ideas. It's not a material I've left behind. It's more a connection with different people that I've met. It's the memory of those people, and hopefully my memory to them, and our connections and different conversations and different exchanges. It's not physical really in that sense.
My name's Susan Bentley. I've been working here for 6 years at Buckler's Hard. I work in the tea rooms, admissions and in the museum. The actual shape of the buildings are outstanding. I think that certainly catches a person's eyes that come into the village. And where they're positioned as well, because you've got the backdrop of the woods behind, giving the whole atmosphere of Buckler's Hard. But to just have something different in the village is also very good for our visitors, because it just makes a much more whole experience, and to see artwork and also to see what they're doing in what they're trying to capture, the essence of the village, the river. There's so much that happens, and they're doing their artwork with that in mind. The actual concept of it all is just really lovely, and I just think it's another part that actually would suit Buckler's Hard really well.